Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Thursday, September 5th, 2024. I hope you're doing well today, having an amazing week. Tomorrow is Friday again. I cannot believe it. This week really went by fast to me. And I guess I ain't too mad at it. What's to be mad at, right? I'm sure you're not mad at it if you work all through the weekday, through the week. I'm sure you're quite thrilled that tomorrow is already Friday. No matter if you work or not, there's just something about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that is just a different vibe than the other days of the week, if you ask me. All right, so let's see what we got here today. Okay, what somebody think they getting away with? Not much, because the hangman is here. Or, ooh, getting away with a sacrifice? What? Ooh. Yeah. Oh, no. Wow, with the Ace of Cups at the bottom. This is somebody that, Well, I'm getting the sense that it's just a couple of mixed signals here, because it's like, I'm getting that that there was a hit put out, right? And someone may have gone from being the hitman to the target. Maybe because they, I don't know, like, Yeah, there was some type of order that was given from a high authority with the Emperor card here. Somebody of power and influence either ordered an elimination or extermination of some sort. They put some type of order out. And it's of a dark nature with this moon card here, or was mysterious or secret or whatever. Like, definitely, let's say top secret. But either that order wasn't carried out to satisfaction or to completion, or because it wasn't, someone then became like the target of aggression. Like they didn't do the job, so now they're under fire or something like that. Or there was just some type of flip-flop situation where perhaps even the person that gave the order somehow became the target. It just seems like a whole lot of like betrayal type of energy here. Like multiple agendas at once, but no one is really to be trusted because everybody has some type of ulterior motive. But at the same time, still, it's like nobody's motive or agenda is being fully realized because of the origin of its nature. You know, like it's just so much shady shit going on behind the scenes that, you know, something corrupt here pretty much, that nothing really can be completed. Which is the Hangman here, where it's kind of like there's something stuck in limbo. Or all of it is. Like it's all stuck in limbo. Because of what is, you know, with the Ace of Cups, this is like love is empowered, you know. So maybe there's just of all the corruption, this love cannot be tainted, and it can't be overpowered or overruled. There it is. So where this guy may have orders to do, or may have a plan to do a thing, and this guy may have orders to do a thing, and that gets flip-flopped, and now this person is actually on the chopping block. Like whatever, it's like everybody that has their motive and intention is everyone that does, or every motive and intention that is contrary to divine ordinance. And what could be more than taking somebody else's mortality into your own hands, right, is being overruled by the divine. Like if this is not divine or divinely ordained, then there's like kinks and wrenches in everybody's plan. What's behind here? I just want to know. Wow, the World card. Yeah, wow, and the Five of Swords. Exactly. Like, There's a greater force at large now. That's just kind of overturning anything that is outdated and outmoded, where people may have had, you know, the Emperor, most high-powered masculine energy in the deck, more or less. Definitely extremely influential. And at that seat of authority, there would considerably be nothing that would be withheld or denied of his charge, right? But except for when there's a divine power overruling it. Every king has a greater authority to answer to, whether they acknowledge it or not. They usually F around and find out at some point, especially when they claim omnipotence, or even to be like in a dictator type of energy. Like every dictator has fallen at some point in time. And this could even be, you know, with the Five of Swords and the Seven of Swords, this could certainly be on his own sword, like by the at the detriment of his own orders. You know, maybe it was the order itself that has somehow fallen into like judgment from the divine, like somebody basically taking advantage of their power or overstepping their bounds, again, to take life into their own hands unjustifiably. And that is what ultimately has made someone become a casualty of their own contempt, is what I'm hearing. Interesting. And this could even be, as I said about dictatorship, this could even be in regards to a nation, you know. It could be a leader, a man. It could be a head of household, you know, like it could even be an ideal or like a concept, like a universal, not so much universal, more societal concept that's outdated, that's been tried and is being challenged, you know, almost like sabotaged from the inside out. So it could even be like the ideals of a nation being challenged in such a way that it now has to either live up to its standard or live up to its creed or be condemned by it in some type of way. It's like no more kind of, you know, skating the, I don't know, like the obscurities of it. Like, let's say, for instance, this great US of A, you know, the home of the free, land of the brave, or is it the land of the free, home of the brave. I had to sing the song. See, like a little bit misconstrued, right? And it's like, what of it is truly being realized? And what of it is just a real lie? You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, if you know spiritually, the United States is under judgment. You know, it's having its, it has had, I believe, its Pluto return, and we're in the energy of that frequency even still, which is why there's so much going on with stability in America that seems to kind of be, it seems to kind of be flaring up, you know, all at once. But a lot of it is on account of the challenge of universal order, making it live up to what it proclaims itself to be. As a nation, from the top down, from the bottom up, and everything in between, you know, like certainly not limited or exclusive to our leaders, but even we ourselves being challenged, whether we realize it or not, to what we pledge ourselves to, you know, like what we agree with, what we invest in our lives day to day, that rolls up into the machine or into the, you know, the whole of the organization. So let's just say that, and then we can even speak on that on a world stage for sure, like in a universal way, I'm sure. But just, you know, right here at home where I am, this could be true on that type of scale, on more of a macro scale, than it just simply being some leaders being challenged by, you know, maybe even being condemned by their own creed or their own conditioning. Imagine, like, for a leader to be just kind of spewing out orders that have casualties attached to them with ease in a season, now finding themselves on a shit list, if not of, you know, if not among the company that he or she has kept, certainly on the shit list of the divine to answer for, you know, his actions and his decisions. So something about that here. Something about that here. But let's see what else we got. King of Wands. King of Wands. Ooh, and the Tower. But yeah, here's the actions and decisions right here. How power has been wielded, manipulated, monopolized. Or how others have been manipulated. It's crumbling. Yeah, the King of Wands definitely being of, you know, the most power driven of all the kings, you know, having a great deal of passion behind his actions, you know, or that fuel his agenda, but in a negative inflection, especially under the Seven of Swords and with the Tower, can certainly veer into, you know, all the things that I said about power in the wrong hands or with the wrong motives. Could be anger. It could be vindictiveness. It could be ego and pride in the most inflated ways. Lustfulness, you know, even obsession with more power, you know, or dominance over others, control, negative influences. The Tower here is that, and it's definitely speaking to what's taken a great hit, this is like an ego bruise to those that have been feeling quite invincible in their positions of power and authority. Like the first thing to take a hit is that pride, when they're perhaps hitting a brick wall or a dead end to have the influence or make the impact that they're used to be able to snap their fingers and make a, you know, bark a command and it be done without a blink, you know, to almost like invoke fear, into their subjects or into, you know, whomever they engage, like to almost lead with fear. That was the difference between that Ace of Cups and all of this. It's like love is the superpower now. So if you're not, you know how they say you can either lead in fear, with fear, or with love, or rule with fear or with love. Well, this is the energy that rules with fear. That's their specialty. But the universal power is love, and that will always trump anything lower than it. And that's what certain forces are learning the hard way and through rude awakenings, that the energy that they have imposed as a power force is actually submissive to something much greater. And something greater in a way that they don't even either feel they possess or just, you know, don't operate in the frequency of, because fear and, you know, in most recent seasons and for as long as we've known, of course, in this lifetime, has been so impressionable. It's been so influential. It's the thing that gets results, or has gotten results every single time. It's reliable, much more reliable than love, because you could lead with love, and there be no guarantees for what the response or return might be. I mean, we know, if you know, then you know that still isn't any excuse to lead with fear. But for those that have veered more on that source and in that frequency, you can more or less predict, or at least you could assume how a person would respond to that, because of how generally humans do respond to the frequency of fear. There's a more predictable reaction, and more of an aggressive influence that can be made through that frequency than love, which is far more free, far more liberated, and more of an allowance, given choice, given opportunity, than it is enforcing and forcing, first and foremost, and overpowering. So some are recognizing that what they operated in as an absolute power before that did have results is actually not all that foolproof. And also because there's a greater force, first and foremost, but also because more people are finding their way to that source and to that force and being empowered by it, which is a direct resistance to the opposite. When you're infused with love from the inside out, fear just doesn't have the same resonance that it did before, when maybe you weren't, or when there was a deficiency of love, self-love in particular. Self-love is, it springs truth, and truth is undeniable. It's much harder to manipulate and monopolize, if at all, when it's pure, which the Ace of Cups certainly is. All right, so let's see what else we got. So it could even be about, as I've spoken before, with this investment, this long-term investment of stagnancy, and the long-term investment of how to keep people stuck, or to keep time even stuck in a certain sequence, keep creation from evolving. What was I gonna say? There was something I was about to say before I saw this card. Oh man, it'll come back to me. Two of Swords. It was probably something in regards to this card, though, because I feel like it was something about the resistance to being allured into the illusion that's been that's been more or less constructed for creation to contribute to, and to surrender to. That's been the long-term plan, but the fuel of that again was the fear, right? But here it is, as I was just saying, that more people are kind of rejecting that notion as their own personal reality. they're choosing up or choosing otherwise, you know, to be more enlightened by something greater, and then invest that energy into themselves to evolve, as opposed to investing their energy into the illusion. Even in the moon is even representation of fear, and you know, that deep psychological current that is mysterious enough to invoke anxiety. You know, it's just unknown enough to cultivate insecurity. Yeah, it's like there's more people are protecting themselves from that from, I guess, from that allure, from that manipulation, I guess, is what it really comes down to. And here it is that there's been an incessant urge to redevelop a means to captivate creation again by any means necessary, really, but with very limited strategy, truly, at this point. Because like I said, this is deep. So that is the energy of the hit. Because it's like, what keeps being, what's the right word? What keeps being ordered, you know, also keeps getting sabotaged in some way, shape, or form, or just completely dismantled, stopped, deconstructed, whatever the case may be. Like, and it's for the purposes of a long-term impact, you know, something that'll really hold creation in place for the next few years or so. But it's given that it's virtually impossible to really make it stick, because the vulnerability and the gullibleness, if that's the word, the gullibility is not really there the way that it used to be. So instead, the intention itself, the hit itself, is actually turning on the hitters, because there's nowhere for that energy to go but back to where it came from. And it's like causing a backlash or a backfire on, like, literally making of the hitters the target, or the but it's not target. Like, when you say, what's the word for when you got a hit out on you? I know it's not target. That just doesn't feel right. Something feels strange about that. But it's like every agenda or method or whatever, like everything that's been issued to execute, literally, has ended up being just a backfire on wherever it came from. Growing in whomever's own garden. Like, the more these power-driven forces obsess over control, the more they're actually losing it. And each effort it's like, for instance, like to go back to like C19 and that being an agenda, whether it's known or unknown, which most figure, even if they don't absolutely know, and there lies the problem, right? Is that a few years ago you could have pulled that wool over everybody's eyes and we'd be none the wiser. But it being what it ultimately was, didn't just cause a detriment to those that it was intended to, which was, you know, the mass of population in the country and maybe perhaps in the world, to just like to resist the independence of humanity, you know, from evolving at the rate, you know, to try to stop it altogether, or at least slow it down. But instead it advanced it in ways that were unforeseen, and that has ultimately now blemished the country, you know, the operation of the country as it was, where there's now so many voids and discrepancies in how we function day to day that affect everyone from the top down to the bottom up. Whereas if you would have just left well enough alone, you know, perhaps we would have continued to go the pace. There probably would have been a moderation of evolution still yet to unfold and occur. But it's like what they did kind of accelerated it to the point where people don't even hardly want to work in a job anymore. And people, you know, don't, are more enlightened to their possibilities and their own independence now. They started their own businesses during that time, or became more creative, became more inspired to do other things that actually make them happy. And even for those that went back to work, there's still a higher priority on those things, which are that force fuel, as in that Ace of Cups, that energize you to love yourself more, especially over anything that's contrary to that frequency, which then does what? Becomes the source of enlightenment and the synergy with truth, you know, ultimate truth. So where it was supposed to control, to create fear, you know, to use fear to create, you know, a sense of control, or impose a sense of control, it actually liberated more folks. But it didn't just do that. It also put a dent in the economy in ways that are, you know, hard to recover from at this point, which also affects, like, literally everybody is affected by inflation, you know, so that type of energy there. So that's just a very practical way. But even in the spiritual essence of it all, which is connected to the happiness and the love and the self-love piece as well, but it has just as much of a spiritual inflection as it does a very practical, material, day-to-day one. But that couldn't have been accounted for in the tunnel vision of just wanting to maintain power and control that you felt was slipping from your grip. That's what obsession does. You know, it kind of obscures your perspective in a way that can only, you know, ultimately be detrimental to the observer, you know, which is why here we are at the Seven of Pentacles with this energy feeling like it hasn't received the return on its investment still, and wondering if it ever will. Well, that might be the return. Yeah, it's like it sabotaged itself. The Emperor has sabotaged himself. It was always a suicide mission anyway, but it's like the ways in which this, what do you call it, like tyrant energy is playing out now. It has no place anymore, really and truly, to thrive. So it's literally, brought to its own demise, either to transform or literally transition. Those are the only options. And can you imagine how hard it must be for those, as I've said, that have been operating with premium results for the most part in the objectivity of fear, to now have to learn how to move in love and truth and peace and respect. That's like, that probably, yeah, exactly. Having to learn how to work differently, to invest their energy differently, maybe go back to the drawing board, maybe go to work, okay? Because some of these powers that so-called be and actually were, as Shavi Zane says, the powers that were, are going to find themselves occupying the positions that are now wide open, now hiring. Those powers that have pretty much like discarded working class citizens, or even, less than that, the needy, the downtrodden, there's going to be a trade in places effect in some way, shape, or form where, can you imagine? Like, I shudder to think. So that's why it's probably a lot of this that may be happening, because some people will just have way too much pride and ego to find themselves working at McDonald's or working at Amazon or working at UPS for pennies on the dollar. And some will, but it'll kill them inside before, they can gather themselves to be transformed from their pride. Cause it's some dirty jobs out here that are vacant, and somebody's got to do them. And there's going to be some open positions in high seated places soon enough. Yeah, exactly. It's a transfer of power and wealth that's taking place, that, because again, the justice on account of the judgment that's being called on those that have been, operating out of integrity in their positions and in their power, is going to be fired or to be demoted or to be ostracized from your field and from your possession, especially if we're talking about leadership. Like if you held any position of leadership and you weren't honorable in that seat, you're gonna lose it. And some people, have built their whole career on a faulty foundation, their whole livelihood on a faulty foundation. And then what are you going to, you won't be able to just go be a politician somewhere else, or go be a corrupt leader somewhere else, a teacher, whatever, like whatever your position was, you won't be able to just go somewhere else and do that. That means that you will have to literally start over and figure out what's what from ground zero. And in this economy, and see, here it is again, like I said, what was created on account of the greed and the obsession and the tyrancy, if that's a word, tyrants or tyrancy, I don't know, you know what I mean. They created these conditions, and it's been like, oh, well, it's not hurting me, or it's not affecting me type of thing, because people have been cushy and in their higher level seats until they're not anymore. And then you actually find yourself in the position that you created a casualty of, to have to find a job in an economy such as this, making less than what, you know, to have to support your livelihood and your family and on wages that are unfair, to find a hard time maintaining your home first and foremost. But then again, God forbid you have to downsize. Now, good luck finding an affordable housing that you can rent on your Amazon paycheck. You know, it's like, this is what was created, but it was created with no regard for whom would have to bear it. And now, in true universal justice, it will be a complete flip-flop for those to actually now experience the circumstances that they manufactured. And those that were supposed to be and have been disenfranchised are actually on the come up because, you know, because of the disenfranchisement and the way that it activated a greater sense of authority, independence, and creativity. Now, this is more of what's being experienced amongst those that were actually supposed to be out for the count by now. They were supposed to be at the Ten of Swords. But this is actually what's occurring day by day, maybe slowly but surely, and perhaps soon more rapidly than anyone ever anticipated. But it's happening on either side of the spectrum. Oh, snap. This is back. Exactly. People are being thrown out of their ivory towers. There are job openings in high level positions, and there are job openings on lower level positions, and there's going to be a crisscross and flip-flop effect. God bless America. And Lord, oh my gosh, remember what I said, that some people will be too prideful. Some people are going to be too prideful. And that's where the real obsession is coming into play, because people are seeing the handwriting, the handwriting on the wall of what their potential fate might be, or just the sheer horror of the possibility. Not as resilient as those that have been on the lower end of the totem pole, that have kind of learned to bear it all, to weather the storm, to do the best they can with very little, you know, to almost make a miracle out of materials as they need to. But that grooming, that level of grooming and resilience comes on account of misfortune and struggle of which those that have been so privileged don't aren't privy to. Some people aren't even going to know what to do with themselves when they can't pay for their extravagant lifestyle. Just the sheer concept of having to downsize in the first place is killing some people from the inside out. And for there to be a possibility to be depleted even lower, for their lifestyle to depreciate even less, you know, perhaps down to what they to standards that they once criticized, or, you know, I don't know what the word is, like condemned or scoffed at a time, but controlled all the while, you know. They can't even wrap their senses around it. So there could be some heightened like a spike in self-elimination throughout the rest of this year, and perhaps top of next, or throughout the next, I would even say. And it'll look like people trying to avoid exposure from scandals, or, you know, taking themselves out on account of exposure. But what it really is coming down to is fear. Fear of scarcity. Fear of poverty. That's what it'll be coming down to. I'm getting out of this. One more. I was going to do another row, but I ain't. Because I ain't even here for this today. Back to work, though. For those that can swallow their pride, there are plenty of jobs, as they tell us every day, right? There's plenty of work. Well, good luck on them interviews, sir, ma'am. Interesting. 3 of Wands, what's the expectation? Page of Cups. Like this, something about feeling sorry, or the expectation, oh man, you can forget about that. I just like the expectation for some level of sympathy or empathy for the struggle and for the strife that some may incur. They're going to be looking for a handout, or looking for someone to feel sorry, or have mercy or pity on them, or be charitable in their not necessarily charitable even in a material sense, but there's just going to be a lot of woe is me in the atmosphere from folks that are used to being the ones to say, oh, get over it, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you're lazy, all you do is complain, all you want is a handout. And now when that experience is realized firsthand of what it really feels like to be an American for the most of Americans, oh, it's going to be like crybaby city. Like there's going to be so much solicitation for sympathy and empathy that ultimately is going to fall on deaf ears, because that's what it was when the shoe was on the other foot. That people are going to be, those that are prospering are going to be too focused on the future and creating in a way, and it's not a selfish, it's not, I don't sense it to be, I mean, maybe for some it may be, and they have that right, but generally I don't sense it to be like a selfish indifference. I feel like people are just going to be too focused on what they're working to create to secure the future so that we never return to the past again. That is what will take precedence for those that can see the way to. You know, like that's the vision. And it's going to take way too much energy, time, resources, and attention to devote to that creativity that you really won't have time to be distracted by anything else, no less by those that couldn't be bothered when you needed a hand or when you were crying out for someone to hear you, for those that had the power to do something to actually do it. Now that those that didn't have the power are going to have the power to do it for themselves and for their legacies, for the future that matters to them, they're going to do it. And they're going to do it with the frequency of love to change, to be the change that they wished to see when they didn't have the liberty and the privilege to be so. Now they're going to do it. And it'll be no thanks really to anyone that was in the power to be of service and should have been of service. And so just as the transfer of wealth and power will be so as it is, the same will be with attention. It'll be focused on the future, and there just won't be any real empathy or, like there won't be a synergy of sympathy for those, as in like, well, you know how it felt when that'll be the heartstrings that'll be pulled on, like, you know how it was when you didn't have, and when you needed help, and it's like, yeah, I do know. And what really did you do for me other than give me something with one hand and take it back with the other? That's what I remember. Give the illusion of support and stability and liberty and justice for all, but really with your fingers crossed behind your back. So it's like those that are stepping into a new level of empowerment really don't have the luxury to be bothered with reaching back for their fellow man to pull him up or her up by the bootstraps, only for him to get on up and smack their ass back down, because that's what'll happen. There's a karmic transference for a reason, because there needs to be an opportunity for all to experience their own personal truth, for those that made decisions in a diabolical sense, or just a lower frequency of respect and grace for humanity outside of their own interest. They get to experience that feeling so that as they progress, if they progress, they'll never return to that again, so we can all completely evolve from that cycle of fear, individually and collectively, so that it can be just abolished from the reality of creation as we know it. Maybe not in time for me to see it be so, or maybe, maybe our children's children will get to realize that truth, but it's got to start somewhere, or else we'll be on this hamster wheel for lifetimes to come, and not on my watch. It ends with me as far as my legacy is concerned. Fear has no resonance in my reality whatsoever. Love is paramount. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with